This is CBS.
Firefighters from Eagan, Burnsville, and Apple Valley have been battling a 4-alarm blaze that has hit a propane gas facility in Eagan. 2 other local news stories remain in limbo. After a mistrial last year, a Ramsey jury is considering the case of Jeff Gursky, charged with murdering his wife. Osseo School District voters are deciding whether to spend $30 million to build another 2 schools. And we'll try to keep up with an 80-year-old roller skater named Eleanor Schuster.
The 6 p.m. report is coming up next.
For year-round comfort and charm, choose a ceiling fan and save at Menards. Old-fashioned ceiling fans are on sale now in modern and traditional styles. Here's our most popular fan, the 52-inch Ceiling Hugger. This 3-speed fan is ideal for lower ceilings. On sale at Menards for just $32. Plus, you could win a 1987 Renault Alliance luxury sedan. Register free during Menards Super Sale.
We're helping you build America's heartland at Menards.
Booyakalea Moo. Behold the Isuzu Pup, the lowest priced truck in America. About $6. Buy a pup now and you can get 3.9% financing or 500 pounds of bananas. Why, I saved enough money to buy this island and all the fish. Penumeli Kiki Bobo.
Hurry, 3.9% financing or $500 rebate offer ends soon.
Hi, I'm Eric Escalade, the state of politics in Minnesota. A panel discussion, 8 o'clock tomorrow night on WCCO Radio.
You are watching WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. This is the 6 p.m. report.
Good evening, everyone. The fire was discovered just before 4 o'clock this afternoon at the Norgas Propane Company on Old Sibley Road. Flames broke out in the rafters in the back part of the building, which houses the company's office and warehouse. The blaze was not propane related, but there, of course, was concern that flames could spread to the nearby gas tanks, and it was that particular concern that sent the fire to 4 alarms, although firefighters had the blaze under control in about an hour.
Well, we were concerned with the building right next to it. It was full of full propane bottles. So we put some water in between the buildings as quickly as possible and tried to contain it just to the one building, which we did. Pretty satisfied with the way it turned out.
Firefighters from Eagan and Apple Valley are still on the scene. Damage to the Norgas plant has been estimated at about $75,000. Tonight, for the second time in a year, the fate of 25-year-old Jeffrey Gursky is in the hands of a Ramsey County jury. Gursky is accused of stabbing to death his wife Carla and then setting their Shoreview home on fire in November of 1985. Last spring, a jury was unable to reach a verdict in his case, and the judge dismissed a first-degree murder count against Gursky. That left him to stand trial on a second-degree murder. Caroline Lowe is in our St. Paul newsroom with the latest developments. Caroline?
Well, Dave, the jurors must decide if Jeffrey Gursky is guilty of second-degree murder or first-degree manslaughter, which carries a lesser penalty.
Jeffrey Gursky admits he killed his wife, but claims it was during a violent argument in which he became extremely emotional after learning she was involved with another man. His attorney told jurors that Gursky's actions amounted to acting in the heat of passion, which is a key element in a manslaughter charge.
We would feel very satisfied with a manslaughter disposition because my client wants to put this behind him. It's a very sad case. These are both good families, and we'd like to be done and go forward with his life, pay his penalty.
But prosecutor Susan Gertner urged the jury not to buy the heat of passion defense, claiming Gursky was not a credible witness. She argued that the evidence shows Gursky provoked his wife and not the other way around, as he claims, and that Gursky intentionally killed his wife and then set the house on fire to, quote, either finish up the job or cover up what he had done. The prosecutor also portrayed Gursky as an angry, immature young man who was often mad at his wife.
Under sentencing guidelines, an average sentence for a second-degree murder conviction is about 10 years in prison, and it compares with about 4 years for a first-degree manslaughter conviction. Dave?
Thank you, Caroline. 2 security guards at the Hennepin County Medical Center have been put on leave without pay pending an investigation into the death of a patient. Jesus Hernandez was brought into the hospital's crisis intervention center yesterday. Shortly afterward, Hernandez reportedly became hysterical, and the 2 guards struggled with him to bring him under control. The patient died of a heart attack during that struggle. In a moment, a plan to offer car buyers more protection from lemons. And school children in some northern suburbs may see some changes after a vote today by their parents.
When you stop to think about it, how does your corn soil insecticide stack up to Thimet? This one should be rotated. These don't have systemic action. And even though all these provide rootworm control comparable to Thimet, they still cost $2 to $3 more per acre. So, when you really think about it, for performance and price, Thimet stands alone.
AAL. We're with you from the earliest times. In times of trial. In times of celebration. Like good friends. Like family. Like a community that moves with a single heart. Count on AAL for help in building financial security through life and health insurance, IRAs, annuities, and more. AAL, because there are times when you shouldn't have to go it alone.
It's the place to be for great home building, landscaping, and gardening ideas, products, and services. The Home and Garden Show, Minneapolis Auditorium, March 4th through the 8th.
I'm so excited. You know, I can't believe I'm going out with a real live author.
I enjoyed meeting Joe Blake. I thought he was very charming.
Yes, especially for an ex-convict.
You think he was going to steal something?
Oh, of course not. Joe isn't a thief. He's a murderer.
How do you know so much about everything?
Let's just say for the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time alone.
The Jeffersons, tonight following the 10 p.m. report and Hockey Extra.
It's always exciting to buy a new car, but the experience can turn sour if the car turns out to be a lemon. Now, state lawmakers may try to put more teeth in Minnesota's so-called lemon law, which allows consumers to exchange a problem car or get a refund. A tougher bill proposed by Attorney General Skip Humphrey would require car companies to sit down with buyers to work out differences rather than forcing the consumers to go to court.
If the manufacturers can't afford to litigate, then it is simply unacceptable to expect that consumers can spend those same thousands of dollars to wait for more than a year while continuing to drive the lemon before they get the benefit of their legal rights.
Representatives of Ford and General Motors say they believe their consumer complaint systems are adequate as they are. The Humphrey bill would also guarantee money back for tax, title, and license fees, in addition to refunds for the purchase price. Tonight, residents of some northwest suburbs are going to the polls. They have been all day. Folks in Maple Grove, Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park are deciding whether to shell out nearly $30 million to build 2 schools. The district says it's growing at the rate of 1 elementary school per year and needs the money to ease overcrowding. Ava Thompson reports.
These kindergartners should get used to more crowded classrooms. Their school, Rice Lake Elementary, is already operating 2% over capacity. Next year, that figure is expected to jump to 6%. Today, residents in the Osseo Area School District voted on a $29 million bond issue. If approved, the money would go to build an elementary school and a junior high. The last bond issue was passed just 14 months ago.
It just seems like cities always tend to want to spend to solve the problem, and the dollar's going to solve it rather than looking at all the possible alternatives.
But this woman says the schools are needed.
Like, my daughter's math group has 36 students in the math group, and that's a lot for a teacher to handle, and to really give the kids the benefit of the teacher's experience and time.
Administrators say the dramatic growth in student enrollment is fueled in part by the home construction boom taking place in the area. A yes vote would mean an annual tax hike of about $65 to the average homeowner.
It is also a turnover of older homes. The lower interest rates caused a number of our homes in the older parts of the district to be purchased by families just starting.
While suburban districts like Osseo appear to be bulging at the seams, others are facing declining enrollments. Take Bloomington, for example. This is one of 3 elementary schools that will close next year. By 1990, enrollment is expected to be less than half of what it was 20 years ago.
At the time we were building schools, we had kids everywhere. As a consequence, though, we have now an excess of space.
But administrators for the Osseo district say their building plans are conservative and that they are not overbuilding. They expect enrollment to continue to increase at least for the next 10 years. Ava Thompson, WCCO Television News, Maple Grove.
Residents in Apple Valley and Rosemont will also be asked to vote on a $47 million bond issue 1 week from today. Nearly 700 people will lose their jobs when Sears Roebuck Company shuts down its Minneapolis distribution center. The retail giant plans to phase out operations at the center within 2 years. The shutdown is part of a restructuring effort underway at Sears, which the company says will result in faster and more efficient delivery of merchandise to retail stores and to their catalog outlets. 3M wants to cut the workforce at its manufacturing plant in New Ulm. The company is looking for volunteers to take early retirement and will offer economic incentives to other employees who choose to quit now. The plant currently employs 750 people. 3M says it wants to cut 70 of them by the end of the year. Early this morning, despite objections from some of those who live near the Twin Cities Airport, Eastern Airlines began its new discount overnight flights. Flight 420 left the Twin Cities at 1:15 a.m., bound for Chicago. Round-trip seats in the plane sold for $59. Passengers with whom we talked said it was a good deal despite the late hour.
So I'll get there in the middle of the night. I'll travel all night. I'll probably be real tired tomorrow, but yeah, it's worth it to my company, and we'll see if it's worth it in the long run.
I think if anybody bought a home in the airport area in the last 10 or 12 years, they have to expect there's going to be noise.
And, of course, there are those who live near the airport say they're fearful that the moonlight flights will wake them up every night. Eastern says it may address that concern by switching to quieter planes for its overnight service. On the Minnesota short version of the income tax form, there is a blank on which we may designate our contribution to preserve Minnesota's non-game program. Sensing that such an option may be removed from the form, a loon in the comic form of U.S. ornithologist Gavin Immer showed up at the state capitol today to lobby for keeping that option open for taxpayers. He was in the company of a 6-foot owl who did not speak but got a few laughs. The Minnesota Audubon Council sponsored the appearance there today. And a worthwhile one it is, too, I would say.
Indeed it is. We're looking at record high temperatures by this weekend, so summer's on its way.
Of the 3 leading corn insecticides, only diphenate gives you control without compromise. Control of both rootworms and cutworms. Counter compromises on cutworms by just suppressing them. And when it comes to rootworms, Lorsban compromises on consistency of control. Only diphenate doesn't compromise on either rootworms or cutworms. Diphenate. Control without compromise. Guaranteed.
Now save over $2,400 on the best quality, best-selling truck in North America. Ford and your Northland Ford dealers now offer 3.9% APR financing or up to $600 cash back on F-150 and 250 Ford pickups. And their special value discounts of over $1,800 more. Together, you can save up to $2,421. And now, all Ford light trucks and vans are backed by a 6-year, 60,000-mile warranty. See your Twin Cities Northland Ford dealer today.
Planning to redecorate? Hirschfield's gets you started right with scrubbable wall coverings from Sanitus, the leading name in fabric-backed vinyl. Dirt and grease wash away with sponge and water. Even stands up to heavy scrubbing. Easy to apply, easy to peel away. Ideal for kitchen, hallways, and bath. Coordinates beautifully with any decor. The scrubbable, strippable, versatile wall coverings from Sanitus at Hirschfield's.
The brown bag lunch has been with us since the dawn of civilization. Through the ages, man has made improvements in the bag. Still, the contents often left much to be desired. But now, Hardee's rewrites brown bag history with the Brown Bag Special. A big deluxe burger, regular fries, and a medium Coke for only $1.99. It's a full meal at a special price, just $1.99. After all these years, Hardee's has made the brown bag special because we're out to win you over.
And the chance is that we may not stop at the mere 50s. We might just bash right on.
Well, do you remember last fall when the woolly bear caterpillar, that known prognosticator of winter weather, came out with the wide band? foretold that we would have a warmer winter than normal, mild winter.
That's a 365-day extended forecast.
I think it is, or at least 180.
He puts himself on a weaker limb than you project.
But I've got another little piece of weather lore for you in case you don't always believe in the woolly bear caterpillar. If the cat is basking in the sun of February, which it certainly did this last February with above average temperatures like we had, then it must go to the stove again in March. I wonder when that's going to happen. Well, we don't see it happening right away because we hit 40 degrees again today. 31 is the average high. That's day 36 now, straight, with above average temperatures. 16 for an overnight low, a lot of frost around this morning, 0 on the precipitation. The Saturday temperature outlook. Now, this is temperatures forecast above the normal. And if you take a look here, we've got 35 to 30 degrees to 25 degrees above normal. Now, our normal temperature on Saturday is 32. That's going to put us in the 60s by late in the week if this really comes true. And right now it looks like it will. A big area of high pressure building up in the upper levels of the atmosphere. The next 30 days still forecasting above normal temperatures for not only Minnesota but just about every place out west. So it looks like the warm trend that we're in is going to continue. Maybe the cat won't go back to the stove this year. I don't know. Satellite pictures, some high thin clouds spreading over the state right now ahead of a warm front out to the west of us. A lot of cloudiness, a lot of storminess back on the west coast, but it's not going to get into us in the foreseeable future. If you take a look at the current weather map, here's the warm front, here's the clouds spreading out ahead of it. Still some flurries lingering in New England, part of that storm system that came through us over the weekend. Storms on the west coast, move into the west coast, move up into British Columbia, kind of weaken, fall apart, not really affect us too much at all. As far as tomorrow's weather map is concerned, still warm front close to us, high pressure still basically out to the west of us, blocking any storms from coming in. So full sunshine, temperatures climbing with the winds out of the south, and we don't see any change in that on into the weekend, with temperatures by the weekend forecast to be near record highs. Our high temperatures for tomorrow warm up a little bit more. They'll be up into the 50s, but look at this, 60s and 70s just out to the west of us, and those 70s could easily move into the southwestern part of the state here by the weekend. Yes, we could see some temperatures near 70 degrees here in the Twin Cities as well. Our current conditions were partly cloudy with 36 degrees. Dew point is 20, humidity 52%. Southeast winds are light, 7 miles an hour. Barometric pressure is steady at 30.41. Our forecast for tonight, mostly clear, drop down to around 20 degrees. Tomorrow it'll be mostly sunny, up to 50 with south winds at 10 to 20. Tomorrow night, fair and mild, 25. And for Thursday, fair and mild with 53 degrees, just the beginning. The extended outlook does call for temperatures to warm into the 60s on Friday. The warmest day probably be Saturday before we get a little cooler air coming in on Sunday. But even with that, no precipitation in sight. And I think that'll be our first 60s of the season.
For heaven's sake.
Isn't that amazing?
With that in mind, we advanced the spring season a little bit. The Mardi Gras, we discovered, is not just for folks in New Orleans. The century-old pancake flipping tradition made its mark on this day before Lent at Edina's Galleria Shopping Center. Standing still, you see, it's easy, just flip the pancake. Tino Lettieri was one of several Minnesota strikers participating, and he competed on foot against several of the Galleria merchants, and did very well until he met his match and teammate Thompson Ucini. There is a colorful tradition to all this going back a couple of centuries, but we don't have time to get into it now because we must cover the rest of the day's sporting news with Ralph John Fritz.
Which is hockey. To begin with, Dave, more hockey playdowns. In a moment, we'll go live to the Met Sports Center for Section 1 action as we take you step by step to that state hockey title.
Moo. Behold the Isuzu Pup, the lowest priced truck in America. About $6. Buy a pup now and you can get 3.9% financing or 500 pounds of bananas.